Woman mocks 68-year-old on flight, has no idea who she really is. Amy Marie stepped onto the plane with her 5-year-old daughter Alyssa and let out a sigh of relief. They were on their way to a long-awaited family visit and had deliberately dressed stylishly for the flight. Amy wore an elegant light blue business suit with matching pumps, while Alyssa looked adorable in a white dress with delicate embroidery. As they reached their seats in economy class, Amy helped her daughter settle comfortably into the window seat before taking the middle seat herself. Glancing around, she noticed that the aisle seat next to her was still unoccupied. Perhaps this flight would be more comfortable than she had anticipated, but just as she began to relax, she saw an elderly woman making her way down the aisle. Her clothes were worn, the sleeves slightly frayed, and her shoes bore the marks of many years of hard work. Her face was set in a stern expression, and it was obvious that she wasn't particularly thrilled to be there. Amy couldn't help but purse her lips slightly. With a deep sigh, the older woman plopped down into the aisle seat, looking around with clear irritation. "This must be a joke," she muttered under her breath. Amy raised an eyebrow in surprise. Had this woman actually just complained about her seat? This was economy class, after all. If she had wanted more comfort, she could have simply booked first class. As Amy and Alyssa remained polite and reserved, the older woman grumbled to herself, pulling a worn-out handbag onto her lap. "Unbelievable that they couldn't give me a better seat," she mumbled. Amy couldn't suppress a slight smirk. The woman didn't look like someone who could afford a better seat, let alone had any reason to complain about it. But what Amy didn't know was that this encounter would change her life forever. Amy tried to compose her thoughts and focus on the upcoming flight. But with every passing minute, the presence of the older woman irritated her more. The musty smell of the woman's worn clothing mixed with the delicate perfume Amy had applied before boarding. Alyssa sat quietly beside her, playing with a small cloth doll while Amy discreetly shifted to the side, trying to create more distance between herself and her seatmate. She adjusted her silk scarf, carefully avoiding eye contact, but her body language spoke volumes. The older woman immediately noticed Amy's behavior. She was used to judgmental stares and knew exactly what Amy was thinking. After a moment of silence, she turned to Amy and said dryly, "Is something wrong? Or are you just annoyed by my presence?" Amy, caught completely off guard by the direct confrontation, cleared her throat and scrambled for a diplomatic response. "No, it's just been a long day." But the woman wasn't buying it. "Oh, really?" she replied, raising an eyebrow. "Or is it more likely that I don't fit your idea of an appropriate seatmate?" Amy was momentarily speechless. She had no intention of starting an argument, but the woman's words had struck a nerve. The uncomfortable tension between them was palpable. Noticing the shift in mood, Alyssa looked up, glancing nervously between her mother and the older woman. Amy wasn't used to being confronted so bluntly about her own superficial judgments. Before she could respond, the older woman turned away, a knowing smirk appearing on her face. "Well," she murmured, "some people judge faster than they think." Amy felt a slight flush rise to her cheeks, but what she didn't know was that this woman would soon have the final word. Amy had had enough of the tense atmosphere and couldn't hold back any longer. With a slightly annoyed tone, she muttered, "One would think that someone like you would make more of an effort to look presentable, especially on a flight." The older woman raised an eyebrow, but instead of getting angry, she simply shrugged with amusement. "Someone like me?" she repeated softly, letting the words linger in the air. "And who exactly is that in your eyes?" Amy could feel Alyssa's gaze on her, and suddenly she became aware of how rude she sounded. But before she could form a response, a male voice interrupted from behind. A flight attendant, who had apparently overheard the conversation, approached with a warm smile. "Excuse me, ma'am. We just wanted to inform you that your reserved seat in first class is ready. Would you like to move?" Amy frowned. Why were they offering this woman a seat in first class? But the older woman simply shook her head. "No, thank you. I'll stay right here." Amy couldn't hide her surprise. "Wait, You could have been sitting in first class. The older woman chuckled softly and nodded. Yes, I could have, but I deliberately chose this seat. She leaned back comfortably, then turned to Amy with a knowing smile. You don't know who you're talking to, do you? Slowly, she pulled a small card from her purse and handed it to Amy. As Amy read the name, she felt the blood drain from her face. Evelyn Carter, CEO of Atlantic Airlines. The owner of the airline. The woman whom she had looked down on and judged for the past hour was the very person responsible for making this flight possible. Amy went pale. She had just disrespected an incredibly powerful businesswoman, and now she wished she could disappear into her seat. Evelyn smiled calmly. You see, I sometimes choose to sit in economy class on purpose. It shows me how people really are. Amy felt her face flush with heat. She had spent the entire flight looking down on someone who not only had the power to blacklist her from the airline, but also had an incredible life story. Evelyn Carter leaned back comfortably, watching Amy's expression with amused composure. You know, when I was young, I had nothing, she began calmly. I started as a flight attendant, had to work my way up, and counted every dollar twice. People often told me I'd never make anything of myself. And look at me now, I own an airline. Alyssa, who had been listening intently, looked up at Evelyn with wide eyes. But if you're so rich, why don't you always fly first class? The little girl asked curiously. Evelyn chuckled softly. Because I never want to forget where I came from, and because I always want to see how people really are when they don't know who I am. Then she turned her gaze to Amy. You see, true greatness isn't measured by what someone wears, but by how they treat others. That's one of the most important lessons life has taught me. Amy swallowed hard. She had judged Evelyn solely by her appearance, completely overlooking who she truly was, a strong, intelligent, and self-made woman who had earned her place in the world through sheer determination. I was wrong, Amy finally murmured, looking away in shame. Evelyn nodded understandingly. We all make mistakes. The real question is whether we learn from them. As the plane landed, Evelyn said a warm goodbye with a friendly smile. For Amy, this was an experience she would never forget. She had learned a powerful lesson, that respect and kindness should never be based on someone's appearance, and that true greatness often comes from the most unexpected places. A lesson in true character. Sometimes life teaches us valuable lessons in the most unexpected ways. Just like Amy, who had to realize that true greatness isn't about looks, but about character. This encounter opened her eyes to the fact that respect and courtesy should be given to everyone, regardless of their appearance. Because you never know who you're really dealing with. What do you think about Amy's experience? Have you ever judged someone too quickly? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, leave a like and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss another inspiring story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.